Hi, everyone, and welcome. So, before you write a single word for your first assignment, I want to read you something. A short essay called Shitty First Drafts by Lamott. This is your assigned reading for week one, and yes, that is the real title. And yes, we're going to say it because that title is the whole point. The first version of anything you write is allowed to be shitty. So let's talk a little bit about Lamott. She is a novelist and a memoirist, and this piece comes from her book Bird by Bird from 1994. And she's known for being really funny and honest about how hard writing actually is. So keep that in mind as we read. And a little trigger warning, she does use violent language as a joke. She's poking fun at herself and other people constantly, and she's doing this on purpose. So before we get into the reading, I want to do two quick things. I want to warm up a little bit with you with some prediction and then take a look at a few vocab words. So before we read a single line, I want you to make a prediction. Look at this title one more time, Shitty First Drafts. And just from those three words, what do you think Lamott's point is going to be? Hold on to your guess. Let's see if you're right. Now, let's take a look at a couple words, just three, so that nothing trips you up. These might already be familiar, but if they're new, let's meet them. So the first term, self-deprecating, just means making fun of yourself in a good-humored way, and that's Lamott's whole style. The next phrase, the uninitiated, means people who are new to something and don't yet really know how it works. And the last word, draft, is just an early version of a piece of writing, one you fully expect to change. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, practically even better news than that of short assignments is the idea of shitty first drafts. All good writers write them. This is how they end up with good second drafts and terrific third drafts. People tend to look at successful writers, writers who are getting their books published and maybe even doing well financially, and think that they sit down at their desks every morning feeling like $1 million, feeling great about who they are and how much talent they have, and what a great story they have to tell. That they take a few deep breaths, push back their sleeves, roll their necks a few times to get all the cricks out, and dive in, typing fully formed passages as fast as a court reporter. But this is just the fantasy of the uninitiated. I know some very great writers, writers you love, who write beautifully and have made a great deal of money, and not one of them sits down routinely feeling wildly enthusiastic and confident. Not one of them writes elegant first drafts. All right, one of them does, but we do not like her very much. We do not think that she has a rich inner life, or that God likes her, or can even stand her. Although, when I mentioned this to my priest friend, Tom, he said you can safely assume you've created God in your own image when it turns out that God hates all the same people you do. Okay, so notice the claim that Anne Lamott just made. She says she knows great writers, writers you love, who and not one of these writers sits down and types out a beautiful first draft. Not one. See, she says it multiple times. We've got italics, there's emphasis here. Now, that's a big, confident claim. So, let's push on it. Who or what is she arguing against? Well, this myth that she introduces at the start. This idea people tend to look at writers and think they sit down feeling like $1 million, ready to go. She's saying this is false. Stop believing it. So let's keep going with paragraph 2. Very few writers really know what they're doing until they've done it, nor do they go about their business feeling dewy and thrilled. They do not type a few stiff warm-up sentences and then find themselves bounding along like huskies across the snow. One writer I know tells me that he sits down every morning and says to himself nicely, "It's not like you don't have a choice, because you do. You can either type or kill yourself." We all often feel like we're pulling teeth. Even those writers whose prose ends up being the most natural and fluid, the right words and sentences just do not come pouring out like ticker tape most of the time. Now, Muriel Spark is said to have felt that she was taking dictation from God every morning, sitting there, one supposes, plugged into a dictaphone, typing away, humming. But this is a very hostile and aggressive position. One might hope for bad things to rain down on a person like this. Okay, so obviously she's being funny here, both the line about, type or kill yourself, and this writer, Muriel Spark, who is taking dictation from God, and because of this, one might hope that bad things would happen to her. Um, these are exaggerations for effect. Um, but notice what's underneath the jokes, right? Anne Lamott keeps building on this idea that writers, even the best writers, struggle. And this is her whole case. For me, and most of the other writers I know, writing is not rapturous. In fact, the only way I can get anything written at all is to write really, really shitty first drafts. The first draft is the child's draft, where you let it all pour out and then let it romp all over the place, knowing that no one is going to see it and that you can shape it later. You just let this childlike part of you channel whatever voices and visions come through and onto the page. If one of the characters wants to say, "Well, so what, Mr. Poopy Pants?" you let her. No one is going to see it. If the kid wants to get into really sentimental, weepy, emotional territory, you let him. Just get it all down on paper, because there may be something great in those 6 crazy pages that you would never have gotten to by more rational, grown-up means. There may be something in the very last line of the very last paragraph on page 6 that you just love, that is so beautiful or wild that you now know what you're supposed to be writing about, more or less, or in what direction you might go. But there was no way to get to this without first getting through the first 5.5 pages. Okay, so here it is. This is her permission. She calls the first draft the child's draft. Um, and it's just about letting it all pour out, letting it be fun, playful, silly, ridiculous. And this is the key, and she repeats it several times throughout this essay. No one is going to see it. So all that pressure, let it go. This is just for you. Calm the fear. You're not performing, you're just getting words down. And this is the payoff of the whole idea too, right? Um, she tells us you can't get to these beautiful, special ideas that might happen on page 6 if you hadn't written those first 5.5 crazy, messy, shitty pages. So the idea here is that those bad pages, those shitty first drafts, they're not a detour. They are the path to the final draft. And that's exactly what your first assignment asks of you. Spend time thinking, get it down, and let it be imperfect. Okay, so let's do a little recap on what we took away from this first section. 2 things. One is the myth that good writers produce brilliance instantly. This is false. 2, the permission. Write it badly first because no one has to see that first draft. That is the freeing part. So maybe now you're thinking, okay, that sounds nice, but does it actually work? In the next video, we're going to continue with the essay, and we will watch Lamott do this with her own professional writing, and she's going to give us a tool that we can actually use throughout the quarter. So that's it for part 1. Take a breath, and I'll see you in the next video.